I have started on recording the session, and now I am going to share my screen. So my screen is shared. So I hope all of you are able to see my screen. Okay, so we are good. So all of you are able to see my screen. Okay, good. So as of now, all of you are on the mute. Okay, so if you want,
Yes.
okay. So as of now, all of you are on mute. So when we are going through the slides, okay, if you have any question, okay, just unmute yourself, okay, and ask the question. I will reply it. Okay, so you can ask by audio or you can also ask on the chat. Okay, it's up to you. Okay, so this is very first slide. So today we'll going to cover linear algebra, your statistics parts, and your probability. And let's see how much we will able to cover. Okay, so the very first thing is linear algebra, and this is very fundamental. Okay, so this is linear algebra, and linear algebra is very fundamental to data sciences. And the reason behind is very simple, because we have the data that we are going to use for the data science or the machine learning models. So it is not in the computer understandable format, because maybe it is in the RDBMS, okay, and it may be, or let's say your other files, that is your text files, your CSV files. Okay, so actually that is kind of text, or let's say numbers, or let's say it is image, or blah blah blah. It could be anything, but that is kind of format that my machine learning model does not understand. So because my machine learning models, when I say machine learning models, okay, so this is nothing but a mathematical model. Okay, so actually it is a mathematical model. Okay, so I have to make my data in a representable form that my mathematical model can understand, because this is pure mathematics. This is a pure mathematical model. Okay, this is pure mathematics, and mathematics only understand the numbers. Okay, so mathematics only understand the numbers. So I have to convert my input data to the numbers, and I have to convert my data in some useful manner, that is more efficient manner, when I'm going to construct my machine learning model. So that constructive method is given by the linear algebra. When I converts all my input data, okay, to the vectors. Okay, let's say for an example, we have taken a simple examples for the house pricing. Okay, so let's say the data is coming from the RDMS, and I have stored in the CSV format. Okay, so I have the rows and I have the columns. Rows is indicating first record, second record, third record, and let's say nth record. Okay, and then this is my first column is price. Okay, let's second column is my area, and let's say third column is my BHK, and let's say fourth column is, let's say, my floor, which floor, and let's say is age. Okay, so these are all my columns, or you can say features. Okay, let's say for first house is area is 15 lakhs, Okay, 15 lakh. Area is, let's say, 800 square feet. BHK, let's say 2 BHK. Floor is, let's say, 15 floor. Age is, let's say, 2 years. So this is kind of data we are having, okay, for all the records. Now this data is in the RDMS, or let's say rows and the columns format. But my mathematics does not understand this row and column format. For one, I have to convert this data. So as we have understood in the very first class, I convert this data that is in row and column format into the vectors. Okay, so I convert each and every made data to vectors. Let's say, for just an example, I just let's say I have only two records, only two variables, price and area. So each and every record I can convert into two-dimensional vector. Now one dimension is representing the area, okay, and second dimension is representing the price. Okay, so for this data, first data, if I am having only two dimensions, that is, first is your area and second is your price. Okay, so I can represent it. Let's say this is 5 lakh, this is 10 lakh, this is 15 lakhs. Okay, no, sorry, area. This is, let's say, 500 square feet, this is 1000 square feet, this is 500 square feet. Let's say price is 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs. So I can represent this data because 800 square feet is something about this, price is 15 lakhs. This is my this point. That's the second data is having, let's say, 20 lakhs, and area is, let's say, I am having 1000 square feet. Okay, so let's say this data is coming something here nearby. So this first data I am going to represent by this vector. This is my vector. Okay, so I have represented first record as a two-dimensional vector. Okay, where first dimension is area and second dimension is price. So I can represent each and every record, or each and every record, okay, to the two-dimensional vectors. Let's say I have more than two dimensions. I have added BHK as well. In that case, my data will, because now I am having three dimensions, three variables. One is price, second is area, third is BHK. So now I can represent this data in the three-dimensional vectors. Let's say this is my area, this is my BHK, and this is my price. So in that case, let's say this is 15 lakhs. So for 15 lakhs, it is something near about, let's say, area is 800. So let's say it's something near here. And for this is 800. And for the, let's say, 2 BHK, let's say this is 1 BHK, this is 2 BHK. So this is representing actually 2 BHK. And this is 8 square. And this is, let's say, 15 lakhs. So this is actually 15 lakhs. So I am representing my data in the three dimension. Okay. Let's say if I am having one more features or one more variables. So now I can represent my data into the four dimension. So because as a human, we can only comprehend or only intuit in the three dimension, we cannot imagine the four dimension. So I cannot show you, but math, it is very easy for mathematics. I can keep on increasing the new variables, and I can represent the data in that number of dimensions. So linear algebra convert each and every record for me in the mathematical format. Over that, I can build a mathematical model. So that is that comes from the linear algebra. Okay, and linear algebra convert each and every record to a vector. So vector is a very important term and very fundamental for each and for the data science and machine learning, because this is a very foundation, and this is the building block of the machine learning algorithms. If you don't understand the vectors, then you are not able to understand how the data science or machine learning algorithm actually works. Okay, so now let's go through the basic concepts of the vectors, how the vectors just work. Okay, and what's the basic functioning of the vectors. Okay, fine. So first come with the matrix. Okay, then we'll go to the not matrix. Actually, let's say very first we go with the vector algebra. Okay, then we'll come to the matrix. So what is a vector? I can represent any of the data in the n dimensional column vector. Let's say I am having a record which is having n dimensions. Okay, so then I can represent that data with the n dimension vectors. This is first dimension, second dimension, this is nth dimension. Okay, let's say I am having only two dimensions, then my vector would be x1 or let's say y1. Okay, that is in two dimension, x1 or y1. Okay, if I'm having n dimensions, so I can represent that data with the n dimensions. Okay, so for each and every record, it be converted to the matrix, and the size is n into one matrix. There are n which are having n numbers of dimensions. So number of rows are n, and columns would be n one. Okay, so this is a vector. So vector is a what is a vector? So let's go to the vector. What is a vector? Vector is a so just try to understand what is a vector. So vector is an object, okay, which has both magnitude and the direction. This is very important concept because because there are two kinds. It is not a scalar thing. If it is a scalar, then it is having only the magnitude. Is vector is having both the magnitude and the direction. Let's say this is y two-dimensional vector. This is y, let's say x. Okay, and let's say this is y, and this is my vector. Okay, this is my point 4 into 3. So I have represented this as a vector. So in this case, the length of this thing, this is called the magnitude of the vector. Okay, okay, this is called the magnitude of the vector or the length of the vector. Okay, this length, and this angle, this is called the direction of the vector. Okay, so what is magnitude? Magnitude we just find out with the use of the Pythagoras theorem. Okay, let's say this is x and this is y. This is because x, complete x. Okay, and this is y. So how will I find out the magnitude? This is the magnitude. So this is just root x square plus y square. Okay, okay. So how I find the magnitude using the Pythagoras theorem? If I am having more than two numbers of the dimensions, then this is the magnitude. Okay, because this is two dimensions, so I am adding both the dimensions per square. I am adding all the square for the all dimensions. This is called the magnitude of the vector. This is also called the norm. Okay, and this is called your magnitude or Euclidean distance. Euclidean distance helping the Pythagoras theorem. Okay, so magnitude of the vector is just the norm, that is also called the norm, and it is the actually it is the Euclidean distance. Okay, using the Pythagoras theorem. Okay, and this angle represent the direction of the vector. Okay, any question here? Good. So vector is any object which has both the direction and the magnitude. So let's say if I take an example of speed and velocity. So speed is basically, speed is, let's say I am 40 miles per hour. This is my speed. So this is a scalar quantity. It is having a magnitude, but it doesn't have a direction. But if I go for the velocity, it is having both the things. It is 40 miles per hour, and it is going in the east direction. Okay, so speed is a vector scalar quantity, and vector and velocity is a vector quantity because it is having both the magnitude and the direction. So if you remember the physics class in the 10th or 11th or 12th class, then you can remember speed is a scalar quantity and velocity is a vector quantity, is having both the magnitude and the direction. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead. So direction of a vector is just this angle. This angle is the direction. Okay. So how can I find the direction of this angle? Let's say this is my vector is u1 u2. That means this thing is u1 and this is u2. So direction is find out. Direction is called, okay. Direction is just meaning that I am just trying to find out the unit vector in this particular direction, because this vector is having both the directions and the magnitude. What is the magnitude of this vector? This vector, the magnitude is under u1 square, that's u2 square. I'm just trying to find out a unit vector in this direction, and that is that I will be having a direction of this vector. So that is called u1. Generally, it is called u1 divided by a u divided by naught. So geometrically, we can represent that. Let's say this is my so u1 is the magnitude in this direction. Okay, so I am just dividing it with the norm of u. Okay, and u2 is the magnitude in this direction, in the y direction. I am dividing it with the norm. So it gives me the unit vector in this particular direction, which is having the magnitude 1, because I am dividing this thing, because u1 is a vector with the magnitude. I am dividing it this with the magnitude of vector. Now this becomes a unit vector in this direction only, because u1 u2 is a vector with direction magnitude. Now I divide this thing with the norm or the magnitude, so it becomes a unit vector in the same direction. So it is only giving me the direction. It is having the magnitude equal to 1. So it is called the direction. If we go for the math geometrically, so let's go for cos theta. So cos theta is what? This is theta, and let's say this is alpha. So what is cos theta? Cos theta is base divided by this what is called hypotenuse. So this is cos theta is this divided by this thing, u upon u1. In the same way, cos alpha, this divided by this. Okay, so then this is actually cos theta, and this is your actually cos alpha, and this is your direction. So my directions, if I am going for the direction of any vector, let us mean that what is the direction from the x-axis, the first dimension, and what is the direction from the, what is the angle from the second dimension. So it gives me the direction of a vector. Okay. So any confusion here? How can I find the length or the norm of a vector, and how can find out the direction of a vector? Okay. So good. We can go ahead. So now let's do some basic exercises. Okay. Okay. This is my, let's say, x, and this is my, let's say, my y. Let's say this is my first vector. Okay, and let's say this is my second vector. Okay, now let's say I call this a vector, and this is b vector. I want to, this represent that this is a vector quantity, direction involved. So I want to find out the a plus b, sum of two vectors. Okay, so vector is represented, let's say this length is, this vector is x1 x2, where this is x1 and this is x2, and let's say this is y1 and y2. So in this case, this is complete y1 and this is y2. Okay, so if I am going to do a plus b, that means actually x1 plus y1, x2 plus y2. Okay, or you can also say x1, it is also represented in this way, or you can also say x1i plus y1j. This is also the same representation. This is I is the this direction and j is the this direction. Okay, they are different combination, different method to represent a vector. You can also represent in this one x1 x2. This is one of the way, or this is x1i plus x2j. This is another method to represent a vector. That means in ith direction, okay, ith is I is actually the unit vector in the direction of x, this one, okay, and j is the unit vector in the direction of this, or we are multiplying with the magnitude. So this is one of the representation. This is second representation. So when I am saying x1 plus x2, I am adding two vectors. Then they are just adding their component in the specific directions. So I am adding the component in the x direction. I am adding the component in the this direction. So what actually? How can I show it in geometrically? Geometrically, I want to add these two vectors. So very simple. What will I am going to do? I am just putting this vector, because in vector, for the vector, the starting position is not important, because they are starting from the zero. But what is important for me as a vector is direction, its magnitude. So if I am saying this is this vector A and this is a vector B, so if I just replace it from here and start it from this point, the end point from this vector, okay, okay, parallel of this, something in the same magnitude. Okay, now this is again B. They are both the same vectors. There is no difference. This is also B vector. They are same, but I have changed the initial position. So initial position doesn't make any difference for the vector. The only difference is its magnitude and the direction. So magnitude is same, direction is same. So this is A and this is B. Okay, if I want to find out A plus B, so this is A and this is B. So what is my A plus B? This is my A plus B. So this is how the vectors are added. This is your A plus B. Okay. In the same way, if I try to find out A minus B, so it's simply x1 minus y1, x2 minus y2. Okay, so how I can represent it here? So if I want to found the A minus B, okay, so what I will do? What is, if this is my B, so what will be my minus B? In the case of minus B, what I am going to do? I am just going to reverse direction of it B. Magnitude will be same, only the direction will be changed. So this is my minus B actually. This is my minus B. So this is my actually A. This is my minus B. Or if I sum it now, this thing, this is my actually A plus minus B, that is A minus B. So I hope you understood the concept. This is very basic concept, how we are going to add two vectors, how we are going to minus two vectors. So this is two dimension. The same way it happens in the multi-dimension, A plus B or A minus B. Okay, so I hope you understood A plus B and A minus B, how it is being done. So A plus B is very simple. Okay, and what is A minus B? A minus B is actually A plus minus B. Okay, so we are good. Perfect. So let's go to the next slide. So vectors we are done. So now let's go to the another concept that is called the dot product of the vectors. So whenever you are not able to understand anything, any issue, just let me know. So what is a dot product of a vector? Dot product is an operation performed on two vectors, okay, that returns a number. Okay, numbers means it is only a scalar value. The dot products of two vectors is a scalar value. That means it is having only the magnitude, not the direction. So that is why the dot product is also called the scalar product. Okay, so let's go for the geometrical representation. Geometrically, the dot product, okay, of the two vectors, the dot product is the product of Euclidean magnitude and the cosine angle between them. That means x dot y, x is a vector, y is a vector, equal to magnitude of x into magnitude of y multiplied by the angle between the two. So this is my x, this is my y, and theta. This is the theta angle between the two. Okay. So this is the magnitude of x. This is the magnitude of y, and this is the angle theta. So my x dot y is basically this thing. Okay. Now let's say if theta is 0, for example, theta 0 means actually they are in the same direction. This is my x and y is also in the same direction. That means theta is 0. The cos 0 will equal to 1. So x dot y will become this thing because they are in the same direction. So their magnitude will be multiplied. Okay. If theta is 90, let's say they are in the 90 degree. This is, let's say, y, and this become the x. In that case, this is angle theta, that is equal to 90 degree. Cos theta will come to 0. That means x dot y is equal to 0. That means they are not affecting any, because this vector does not have any impact in this direction, and this x factor does not have any impact in this direction. So their magnitude combined dot product is basically 0. That means they are just not affecting each other. And in that case, their combined effort is just equal to their multiplication. If they are in the opposite direction 180 degree, then this is cos theta is equal to -1, because they are in the opposite direction. This is minus xy. So this is your dot product of vector. This concept is very much used in your SVM and many algorithms of the data sciences. Okay. So you need to be very good at it. Otherwise, you will not be able to understand the mathematics of the SVM and the other algorithms. Okay. So this is first. Let's go to the next slide. So that was your geometrical representation of the, what was my geometrical representation of the dot product? That was x dot y equal to x y cos theta. Okay, now let's go for the algebraic. How we can understanding it algebraically. Okay, let's say this angle is alpha and this complete angle is theta, and so this is basically theta is beta minus alpha. So theta is equal to beta minus alpha. Okay. Okay. Now I want to compute cos theta. That is this thing. So cos theta is actually cos beta minus cos alpha, because theta is equal to b minus alpha. So cos beta minus cos alpha, if I open it, then it becomes cos beta cos alpha sin beta sin alpha. Very good. This is my x1, x2, and this is my y1, y2. Okay. So what is cos beta? This is my cos beta. So cos beta means this divided by this thing. So this is x1 divided by magnitude of x. Okay, in the same way cos alpha, this is cos alpha. So this thing divided by this magnitude, yani y1 upon y magnitude. In the same way, sine beta is sine beta. This thing divided by this thing, that is x2 divided by xy. In the same way, sine beta, this thing divided by this magnitude. This is sine beta. Okay, so this thing. I hope you understood. I have opened this formula. This is geometrically. Okay, now cos theta becomes x1 y1 plus x2 y2 divided by this thing. Okay, I hope it is clear. This is mathematics. This is nothing new here. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, okay, so now, because in the last slide what was there, we were having this thing cos theta. So I just, what I am doing, I'm just giving it here. Okay, so it becomes xy cos theta equal to x1 y1 or x2 y2. And geometrically, I understood what is this. Geometrically, this is nothing but the dot product of two vectors x and y. So I can replace xy cos theta with x dot y. Okay, I replace it here. So it is now this one. So x dot y, if I want to represent dot product of two vector algebraically, what does that mean? That means, let's say my first x vector is x1i plus x2j, and y is y1i plus y2j. Then what is my x dot y? X dot y is simply this multiply by this x1 y1 x2 y2. I am just adding them. So this is just a dimension to dimension multiplication. I'm just adding with them. So this is the dot product. So you can see here, this is a scalar quantity. Okay, so node direction is a node. So if I have the multi-dimensional, if it is only for 2 dimension, I can write it like this. If it is multi-dimensional, this is something like this. So this is your dot product. I am just multiplying the direction quantities. Okay, direction magnitude. So this becomes your x dot y. Okay, this is the algebraic definition of 2 y2. And for example, let's say my x is equal to 2i plus 3j, and my y is equal to 5i plus 15j. So what would my x dot y? 2 into 5 plus 3 into 15. That means 10 plus 45. That means 55. So my dot product would be 55. Okay, and what would be my x plus y? X plus y would equal to 2 plus 5 I plus 3 plus 15 j. That is 7i plus 18 j. Okay, fine. In the same, what is my x minus y? That is 2 minus 5 I plus 3 minus 15 j. That means minus 3i minus 12 j. So I hope you understood the concept of x plus y, x minus y, and x dot I. Okay, any question here, friends? If you are good, then we can go ahead. Perfectly fine. So that we are good. Let's go to the next slide. Vector projection. This is another important concept. So this class may be looking okay, maybe appearing to you guys are just abstract mathematics. But actually, this is an important concept because these are going to be used in the data sciences algorithms. So we are not going in the very deep. So we will be covering very essential parts and the very basics part. Okay, so that it won't become a mathematics class. Okay, we are touching all these particular points which are very frequently used in the data sciences. Okay, so if you are understanding only 60 or 70% of the things, don't worry about that. Okay, after the class, today class, you just go through the slides one by one, each word by word, and you will understand 100% of the things. Okay, that is not a problem. Very simple slides. Okay, so now we go for the project vector projection. Vector projections just means basically if I'm having this vector V, I am having vector W. So what is the projection of W in the direction of V? That means basically what is the impact of W in the direction of V? Okay, projection just means that because Y is in this direction and W is in that direction. So W might be having some impact in the direction of V. So I just want to find out the impact of W in the direction of V. That is called the projection. Okay. So let's say I want to find the projection of W on the V that is represented by this thing. Projection of W, okay, onto V. Okay. For this thing, let's say this is the direction of V, okay, and this is the magnitude of V. Okay. This is the direction of W with the magnitude. Okay. So here you can see W magnitude is more than V, and also the angle is more than V. So I just want to find out the projection of W on the V. So I just do a simple exercise. What I'm going to do, I'm just stretching it V with by some magnitude. Direction will remain same. I'm just multiplying this with some quantity C. Okay. So what will happen? The direction will not change. Only the magnitude will change. Okay. So I am just multiplying it by C. Any C number. So let's say it becomes this. I multiplied this is any infinite number. Let's say any number. Okay. So that it enlarges its magnitude. Okay. Fine. So we are good here. So this thing is called the basically projection of W to projection into the V. And now I am interested in find out the value of this C because C is for me example. Let's say C is from here till here. Okay. So I am interested in basically C. I want the projection of W in the direction of V. That means this thing. So what actually I'm doing? I am just first I enlarge it multiplying with C. Okay, so direction doesn't change, only the magnitude change. Now what I'm doing, I'm just putting a perpendicular line. Okay, from this point to this, from this point to basically this point. Okay, let's say here. Okay, this is a perpendicular line from this end point to another vector. Okay, very simple thing. I'm just making a perpendicular line that is 90 degree. Okay, so now what I'm going to do. Okay, so the vector connecting W and CV is W minus CV. This is W minus CV. How wide it is? Because this is V and this is W. So we have understood the concept of A minus V. A minus is nothing but A plus minus V. So here you can see this is CV. Okay. And this is what? Let's, for example, let's understand this is A. Okay. For example, and let's say this is C. For example, this is C. Okay. So actually A plus C is equal to actually, let's say this is V. One example. So A plus C. What is their sum? This is their sum. So this is equal to B. What I need to find out C. So what actually C is? C is equal to B minus C. So that is why I'm actually doing it here. So this is actually, this is nothing but actually this thing. This is W minus CV. Okay. So this is W vector. This is V vector. This I have made a perpendicular vector. So this is nothing but W minus CV. Okay. So now we have seen in the vector dot product, if two vectors are perpendicular to each other, their dot product is 0. That means CV, that means W minus CV and dot V. This is my dot product. their their dot product would be 0. That means W minus CV dot V equal to 0. Okay. And now your question would be like that, okay, this is actually not V, this is CV. Okay, this is CV. Okay, why I'm using only V? So I have already clarified that for me, magnitude and the direction of the vector is important, not the position. So I can take it here. Just like, let's say this is C. I've just put it from here to here. I just shifted it from here. So this is C now. C and W minus CV, they're perpendicular to each other. So I'm just finding out their dot product. Okay. So W minus CV dots B should be equal to 0. Okay. I'm just opening it. Okay. And now this go down. This become this. I am just interested in finding the C. So this is my C. Okay. And now V dot V, yani dot product with the same dot product to the self. So it become V square. Okay. Why it become V square? Because let's say V is, for an example, Xi or plus Yj for an example. So what is my V dot V? V dot V is Xi dot Xi plus Yj. So it become X1 square plus Y square. The same thing. Okay. So my C is this now. And what is my C? Now this is only the quantity because C is a scalar quantity. Now I am multiplying it with the vector because this is the vector of direction of V. So I am now multiplying the V vector. So now this is my magnitude. This is giving my direction. So this complete thing is my projection of W on the V. This is my projection. So we are going to use this concept in the different the coming algorithms. So just now try to understand the concept. We are not going to apply as of now. Okay, we are going to apply in the forthcoming algorithms. Okay, just understand it in the abstract form, mathematical form. What is the dot product? What is the projection? What is A dot B? What is A plus B? What is A minus B? Okay, so this is the projection of one vector to the another vector. And what is the value? This is the value that we have derived. Okay. So any question or we are good to go? Okay. So now so what is linear independence of the vector? What does that mean? Linear independence of vectors means that two vectors are independent if I cannot write one vector in the form of another. Let's say I have one vector A that is 2i plus 3j. This is two-dimensional vector. Let's say my B is 4i plus 6j. So I can write down my B is actually 2a. So I can write down B in the form of A. Okay, by multiplying with any of the scalar. So these two vectors are actually the same in the same direction. Actually, you can say this is the same direction. Okay, this is my I and this is my j. So this is 2i plus 3j. Let's say this is 2i plus 3j. And what is 4i plus 6j? This is 4i plus 6j. So you can see these are actually in the same direction, only magnitude is different. So actually they are not independent, they are dependent. Okay, because they are in the same direction, only the magnitude is changed. When I can write down any of the vector in the form of another vector, then they are dependent on each other. If I cannot write down A, okay, any scalar value, let's say S, D, then they are independent vector. If I cannot write one vector in the form of another vector using, then they A and B both are independent vectors. Okay, so understand the concept. So linear independent means that they are not in the same direction, first thing. Okay, and I cannot write one vector in the form of another, just multiplying with some scalar AI. Okay, if I can able to write they are the same vector with the different magnitude. Okay, if they are in the different directions, then I cannot write it down, they are independent vector. Good. So dependence and independence. Linear means basically they are in the same line. You can understand linear independence. They are on the same line, same alpha angle, but the magnitude are different. They are linear dependent. If they are on a different line, they are linearly independent. Then I cannot write one vector in the form of another vector. Okay. So these all concept actually we are going to use in the coming algorithms. So just understand it. Okay, now we will go back to the slides now, because we have understood the concept of vectors. So we are good to go back to the matrices. Let's go back. Matrices. What are matrices? All of you have understood the matrix. Okay, this is matrix. This is a matrix. Okay, of size m. This is total number of how many rows? Rows are m, and what are columns? Columns are rows are m and columns are n. So size is m into n. This is matrix. Okay. Now each and every vector can be represented as a, let's say if I am having a vector, let's say a, that is, let's say it is in the, let's say 5 direction. Let's say its dimension is 5 dimension. So I can write it down something like this. Let's say let's say x1i plus x2j plus x3k plus x4l plus x5m, where i, j, k, l and m are the dimensions, and x1, x2, x3 and x4 and x5 are the magnitude of this vector in these all directions. So this is my vector. Okay, so how can I represent this vector in the matrix form? Very simple. x1, x2, x3, x4, x5. This is 5 into 1 size matrix. This is a matrix representation of a vector. So now try to understand the things. We using the linear algebra, we are converting all the data records in the vector forms. First thing, because I need a mathematical representations of all the data, because my mathematics understand the mathematical format. Okay, and vectors are the most appropriate concept or most appropriate kind of thing then can we use for the machine learning algorithm. So we have used the vectors, because in machine learning algorithm actually we need for any of the data we need both the direction and the magnitude. Magnitude you can understand why we need the directions of any record. Let's say for an example, magnitude पे आपको समझ में आता है कि magnitude for one data and the second data, but why do we need a vectors? Why do we need the direction? Let's say for an example, this is my this is not, so whatever, this is my x and this is my y. Let's say this is my first vector. Okay, and let's say this is my second vector. This is my vector A and this is my vector V. So magnitude, that makes sense. Okay, for each and every data record. But what actually this theta signify? Okay, because for each and every, this is my, let's say this is alpha, and let's say this is beta. Okay, these are the direction of the vectors. Okay, so now actually what this theta signify? What is the significance of this theta? Because for each and every data records, okay, I need to find out some mechanism how one record is basically more or less similar to the another record and how much it is different to the another record. So actually the angle, this angle gives me the similarity between the records. So if the angle is less, let's say, then it will become more or less same vectors. Okay, if his angle is 90-degree, that means they are altogether different records. They are altogether no relation in between them. They are not affecting each other because they are totally different records, altogether different. But if this theta is lesser, okay, that means they are more or less same kind of record. So basically this angle, when that is why I'm using the vectors, because if this angle is less, that means I can say that both of the records or the both of the vectors are more or less basically kind similarity. It gives me the similarity, similar kind of records. And this concept actually very much used when we are going to use in the natural language processing. Okay, and in concept when we go for different algorithms. So in NLP it is heavily used, the vectors. Okay, in the same way when we are finding out the correlation, so there are a lot of things we are going to find out on the basis of the angle between the two records. That's why we are going to use the vector quantity for the machine learning or data science algorithm, because it gives me the magnitude of the record and it also gives me the similarity between the records, similarity or dissimilarity. That's why vector concept is very important. It gives me both the things. Okay, so now I have converted my data record in the vector format. So now that is perfectly fine. So why do I need the matrices? मुझे matrix की जरूरत ही क्या है? So matrix is second important concept. When I have the vector and I have converted my vector into the matrix form. So now here comes to the your computer science. Behind the scenes, each and every calculations, okay, is done in the matrix form. Each and every data record is being represented as a matrix. Okay, and why it is that we are doing it purposely. We don't require matrices if we have a smaller data set. Let's say I have only 1,000 records and let's say 20,000 records. Then I don't need the matrices because I can use all the data one by one. Okay, but the thing is that when I am having a lot of data, and the machine learning learns the patterns from the data. So we are going to have a lot of data. When the data is big data, a lot of data, in that case, if I am going to learn patterns one by one from each and every record, then that calculations becomes very huge. And if you understand the computer science concept from your BTech or MCA, whatever you have done, or BE, so you understood, or you remember that matrices calculations are very, very fast. Okay. So that is why matrices a special concept come to the computer science, because it makes your calculation very speedy, very fast. So that is why each and every record in data sciences first convert to the vectors, and vectors are represented in a matrix form. And using the matrix behind the scenes, all the calculations are done using the matrices. Let's understand. Let's say I have two vectors. First vector I am having A, and I want to do A plus B. So how can I A plus B? Very simple. First I will represent A in the vector format. Let's say x1, x2, and let's say this is my B, that is y1 and y2. I want to do A plus B, so I will just add two matrices. Now it will become what? X1 plus y1, x2 plus y2. This is very simple thing. Now I am just doing only for single record. Let's say I want to do it for the thousands of the or let's say millions of the records. Now, what will I do? I will just add a for loop. Okay, and for loop for each and every record, I will be adding one record to another or doing the a plus b for all the records. It will, I have to run this for loop for the 1 million site if I having the 1 million records. Okay, but what is the easiest thing? I will put all the record in the matrix form. Okay, and I just add it up, and it is very fast. I have not to run this loop for the 1 million times, and just I will put all the records in this thing. Okay, now I just want to add, I want to multiply all the data records with some C, let's say. So I just multiply this vector with the C, matrix with the C, and all this done in the single step. But if I want to multiply all the data record with some C, then I have to go for the for loop. It is very, very time inefficient method. So that is why when I'm going to work on billions or trillions of data, so all the calculation, that is I'm adding them, I am minusing them, I'm multiplying them, all the thing, whatever you can think of, all these are calculations are done behind us in the matrix, because matrix is very, very fast. So that is why matrix and vectors are both intelligent terms. Okay, behind the scenes, all the vectors are represented in the matrix and all the calculations are done in the matrix form. So this is your matrix addition, very simple, that I have shown to you. This is nothing rocket science. In the same way, your matrix multiplication, row to column and column to row. Let's say if I want to multiply two matrix, let's say matrix A and matrix B, so their inner size should be same. Let's say if it is M into N size, so then it should be N into K something. It should be same. If it is not same, I cannot multiply that. Okay, and generally A into B is not equal to B into A. Okay, so how it is done? If you remember from the your BTech or your 12th class, this is row to column multiplication simply. This is row to column. A11, B1, A12, B21, A13, B31. So this is nothing special. This is just a matrix multiplication. Okay, that we are going to use in the algorithms. Okay, now let's go in for the third slide. Identity matrix. What is identity matrix? Identity matrix is something like that. Like let's say I am having a matrix. Okay, and if I am having another matrix and I am doing the multiplication of that and it is giving me the A, same matrix, then B is called the identity matrix, and generally this is in the form where all the terms are 0, only the diagonal is 1. So this is your identity matrix. This is just denoted by I. Okay, so this is identity matrix. Let's go for another. What is the transpose of the matrix? This is simple. I am just converting row to column and column to row. Let's say this is my matrix 3, 5, 1, 7, 2, 3. So let's say this is A. So what is my A transpose? A transpose would be 3, 7, 5, 2, 1, 3. So this is my A transpose. I am just converting rows to column, column to rows, right? This is nothing. Okay. Inverse of a matrix. This is very important concept. What is the inverse of a matrix? Very simple. If let's say I have any matrix A, okay, and if I am multiplying it with some matrix B, okay, and it is giving me I, identity matrix, then this B is called the inverse of A. That is A inverse. Okay, so this is very simple. Okay, so sometimes there is no inverse at all. So first thing, very fundamental, the matrix has to be a squared matrix if I want to find out the inverse of a matrix, because finding inverse of a matrix is a very costly affair. It takes a lot of time. So it entirely depends. First condition, it should be square. Or let's say if it is of smaller size, then finding the inverse is very easy. But as the size of matrix grows, okay, so then it becomes very difficult, because this is a very risky, very costly affair. Even computers take a lot of time. Let's say if you have a matrix of, let's say, 1 lakh into 1 lakh dimension, 1 lakh to 10 lakh dimension, so it may maybe take at least 1 hour 2 hours to find the inverse of that matrix. So finding inverse of a matrix is a very costly affair. Okay. So anywhere in the machine learning algorithm, if there is a case somewhere that I have to find the matrix inverse of any matrix for any calculations, okay, then I will try to avoid that. And the basic reason is that because first, most of the times my matrix is singular, okay, that it is no inverse possible at all, or it is not of the square side. तो आपका basically उसका inverse आप निकाल ही नहीं पाओगे. So in that case आप उसका approximate inverse निकाल सकते हो, but again it will take a lot of time. So basic concept, if your matrix is too big and if you find out if and you are doing some calculation behind the scenes and it is mandatory to find out the inverse of that matrix for the calculation, so you will try to find out the alternate route so that you can avoid the finding the inverse of the matrix, because it is very computationally very costly. And that is why if you remember the linear regression first class, so there was a simple method we were using, direct equation method. Okay, in that case, if I am going to update theta, that is parameter, so it is just first what is the value of theta. I am just let's say I am just using dE by d theta equal to 0, and it was giving me value of the theta, okay, any of the parameters. That was the direct equation method. But the problem with this method was that behind the scenes I have to find out the inverse of that data matrix X, okay, and that is if that was very computationally costly. So I leave that approach of the direct equation method, and I adopted the methodology of the gradient descent, in which I do not need to find out the inverse of X. Okay, so this is how the matrix is being used. Okay, so generally we try to avoid the finding the matrix of the inverse, but if it is size is small, then we can find out. If size is greater, then we have to find out the some alternatives. Okay, so this we have already seen how we can represent the vector in the matrix form. This is same thing. This we have already seen. X plus y is the same. Yeah, I'm just adding two vectors using the matrices. Okay, in the same way I can find out the x minus y. In the same way I can find out the x dot y. So all these are possible using the matrix operations. Nothing special in it. Okay. So now comes to the another important concept, that is called tensors. Okay, so what are the tensors? Tensor is a very important concept. Okay, if you all of you are aware of array you have been using in all the programming languages. If it's two-dimensional array, three-dimensional array, okay, so you can understand tensor is a multi-dimensional array. Okay, so when we have the data that has to be represented in the multi-dimensional, okay, so that data cannot be represented in the normal arrays. So we have to find out some different data structures. So tensor, because sometimes three dimension, 4 dimension, 6 dimension, 8 dimensions, so we have to represent the data. So in that case, we are using the multi-dimensional array, and in the machine learning algorithm, we call it tensors. Okay, so this is basically tensors. That's why if you see the deep learning Google concept, that is called TensorFlow. So that TensorFlow is coming from these tensors. Okay, so because tensor is very fundamental concept, that is nothing but multi-dimensional arrays. So on the same, it was Google called it library the TensorFlow, because tensor flowing. Okay, let's say for an example, I have a 2D image, two-dimensional image, that is a gray image. So how the image is represented? Yes. Anyone is asking any question? Okay, no problem. Okay. So in the, let's say if I am having a gray image, that means each and every image is represented with the intensity of this pixels. Let's say this is size of this image is 10 into 10. So I am having 100 pixels. Okay, now this is a gray image. So the intensity of the pixel is represented using 0 to 255. 0 means black. This pixel is black. 255 is brightest. Okay, so if it's a two-dimensional image, so I can represent this image. Okay, someone is asking a question. The Python, can we treat list as an array? Yeah, more or less, list is an array. In Python, array is not being used, list is being used. Okay, and list and Python more or less same. The only difference is that if we compare array with the different languages and the list, so in array we can have only the single type of data, but in Python list we can have multiple type of data. I can put in a list integer, float, string, all kind of data in a list. But array had the limitations that I can put only the single kind of data. So list is a optimum, optimized version of array that is in that Python is offering to us. Okay. Okay. So if I am having a So if I am having a gray image, so I can represent in a two dimension because this is intensity is only in a two dimension data. Let's say if I have a RGB image. So in RGB image, basically I am having a three dimension data. So first it is giving me, let's say 10 into 10 की image है मेरे पास. So this is 100 pixels. So this is representing me R. Okay. Then I am having next dimension, that is green. Again, this is having 100 pixels and intensity for the green color. Then I am having, again, this is blue. Again, 100 pixels giving me the intensity of blue color. And with the combination of RGB, and for each and every pixels, actually I am having three intensities. One intensity for red, one for green, one for blue. And with the mix of that, combination of that, I am finding out different colors. So now this thing is the two dimension. I can handle it in the two dimension arrays. Okay, two dimension tensors. But this thing is a three dimension. So I need a different type of data. So I'm using different data structure, that is for tensors, because I have the three dimensional data. So I can have three dimensional, four dimensional, six dimensional, seven dimensional, a lot of, because when we will be working on the deep learning. So we generally goes for 50, 100, a lot of high dimensions data. So that cannot be handled by the traditional data structures like list or something. So we come with the concept of the tensors. Okay. Okay. So how actually tensors looks like? This is your 1D tensor. Okay, only 1D. This is single array, one dimensional array. This is your 2D tensor. This is your 3D tensor, three dimension. This is your four dimension tensor, 4D tensor. Yani I am just putting this all three dimension to this thing. Like this. This is your four dimension. Now this becomes fifth dimension. I am putting it in the rows and column. And now I am increasing one more dimension. It becomes 6D tensor. And how I can create the 7D tensor? I am just arranging it in a array. It becomes 7D tensors. So this is how the tensor is increasing their dimension. Okay, so tensors is heavily used in the deep learning. Okay. So what is linear transformation? You have understood linear regression. Okay. So I think you are very much aware of the linear transformation, linear regression. So this is same thing. I having a linear relationship between the A and X. That means basically I having A, I am having X, I am having B. Okay, X is a vector and B is a vector. Let's say for an example, X is a vector, B is a vector. I am multiplying this with some scalar matrix that is A. Okay, so now if I am multiplying this by this thing, so I am getting this kind of all the things in the matrix form. This is same thing. Okay, let's say I am an n equations. This let's say this is my first record. This is my second record. This is my all the variables. This is my prediction values. Or you can mathematically you can say this is the equation. Let's say I am this is all n equations and unknowns. Okay, n equations and unknowns. Okay, so I can route this format in this format mathematically. In the matrix form, I can write it down like this. Okay, where a1, a1, a2, this is my matrix X, this is my matrix Y, and a1, a2 are unknown variable that I have to find out. So this is called actually projection of A is a linear transformation of vector X to vector V, because I am just what I am actually doing. I am finding out B, okay, using the X, multiplying X with some scalar matrix. Scalar matrix I'm using. I'm multiplying it by the X, and I am finally I am getting the B vector. So this is actually A is a linear transformation of vector X into the vector V, and the same thing actually we are doing in the linear regression. Okay, because you can understand it is the first record, this is second record, this is nth record. Okay, and if you remember the matrix class, first linear class, so that is the same representation. Okay, so A, X is your number of features, and B is your predicted value, and A we are trying to find out number of parameters. Okay, this matrix we try to find out number of parameters. Okay, no, so X we try to find out. X we're trying to find out there is number of parameters. Sorry, coefficient. A is your number of parameters, number of records, and B is your target value. So this is just linear transformation. So this is the same thing. That you already did linear equations. Okay. Matrix inverse we have already seen. Closed form solutions. So that is the same thing that I have understood you. Let's say for an example, I have a linear equation Ax equal to B. That is a linear equation. And if, let's say what I am trying to find out, I have to find out X. Let's say number X is nothing but X is the matrix of all the coefficients. So how can I find out X equal to A inverse B? There is a direct equation method we have seen. So I have to find out the value of A inverse. Now A inverse was not possible because if size grows, then it is very cost ineffective, very costly. So I avoid to use the A inverse method, finding the A inverse. So what I was doing, I was using the gradient descent method. There are other method also that I can use for other than gradient descent, that are matrix inversion method. Okay, we were using because we are finding A inverse was very costly. So what we were using gradient descent, but we can also use matrix inversion method that we cannot use because we have to find A inverse. So we can also use Gaussian elimination method. But again, this is again very much Gaussian elimination. अगर आपको याद होगा, आपने 12th क्लास में आपने मैट्रिक्स के थ्रू आपने इक्वेशन सॉल्व करते होंगे वाली. दादी को बोल देता. ओके, सो एक क्वेश्चन आप Gaussian एलिमिनेशन के थ्रू आप इसको सॉल्व किया करते थे, जिसमें कि आप बेसिकली क्या करते थे, इस मैट्रिक्स को आप बेसिकली इस मैट्रिक्स फॉर्म में कन्वर्ट करते थे जब तक ये फॉर्म आपकी नहीं आ जाती थी, यूजिंग द रो एंड कॉलम, you can say manipulations. Okay, then you find out the equation of this form. Then this is x value is 0.5, y value is 8, and z value is equal to 2. That was Gaussian elimination method. But again, this is very costly. And the important thing is that in this case, you need basically this size should be equal to m into m. That should be your square matrix. If it is not square matrix, Okay, if it is not a square matrix, then basically you cannot use the Gaussian elimination method. Okay. Okay. So Gaussian elimination method is again a limitation that it should be a basically a singular a square matrix, but in our cases our the matrix of the data is not always squared. Okay, because we have the millions of the records and the number of parameters or number of features are generally very less. Let's say we have number of features are 1000 and number of records are, let's say, 1 million. So this is not a square matrix, so I cannot use the Gaussian elimination method. I cannot use the inverse method. So what I use, generally I use the method gradient descent. Okay, there are और भी different solutions होते हैं. You can also go for the Cholesky method और different बहुत सारे methods होते हैं, ठीक है ना? So but we generally go for the gradient descent method, gradient, because this is very fast. Okay. So this is all about linear algebra. ठीक है ना? linear algebra. आपको अभी फिलहाल at this moment of time you need not to go into the very deep mathematics. This is, as of now, this is more than enough. Okay, so you just go after the class, you can go through the slides and just try to understand all the concepts one by one. Okay, if you don't understand anything, come with the specific questions in tomorrow class. We will go through. Okay, we will take the questions and I will try to explain the things. Okay, so if you want to go for the further readings, we have the times. So that is as of now not needed, but you can go for the what are the different kind of matrix, what is matrix factorization, what is eigenvectors, like in eigenvalues, what is SVD, what is rank of a matrix. Okay, so this kind of concept you can go through by yourself. Okay, otherwise it will take 4 or 5 more classes to just for the linear algebra. Okay, so that I don't want. So we'll just go with the very basics so that you have very good, so that you have a head start with the linear algebra and you will not stuck. So whenever we just progress in the course, any of the things comes like SVD will comes in the recommended systems or other algorithms, then we will try to understand what is SVD. So as of now, it is not needed, at least for next 2 months, next 2 or 3 months. Okay, so we are good to go. Okay, so till now, I hope you have understood 60 to 70%. So that is you are hit. No problem. Your hit ratio is good. But if you have understood 20 to 30%, so that is bad. So go through the slides again after the class. Come with the specific questions. Okay. Then tomorrow we'll have a quick recap with all of your questions. Then most probably after the tomorrow class, we will be reaching about 90% to 100%. So then we are good. So no problem, don't worry. Mathematics is not that tough, at least in the starting. Okay. So we have covered the linear algebra. So any question? Abhi ke liye. So just let me know. Deepa, Ashish, and Kuldeep, and whoever is there. Okay. Good. So I hope we are good. So we go for the, yes, I find one. No, very good. Good. So now we go for the second mathematics part, that is probability. And this is my favorite topic. So actually when we work with the algorithms, data science algorithms. So basically we are doing the prediction. We are doing predictions. So these predictions are actually always not 100% accurate. We are actually just always we are giving the probability. For each and every algorithm, in the classification algorithm, we always calculate the probability of happening of something. Let's say, for example, I want to make an algorithm for classification, and it will just classify. Let's say this person is having cancer. It is diagnosed for cancer. No, its symptoms classify for the cancer or non-cancer. In that case, because I am just doing the reverse engineering using the data, and I am trying to build a model that can predict me that this person is cancerous or not cancerous. So in that case, there is no perfect model. I cannot build a perfect model that always works in the 100% accuracy. That model is always a probabilistic method. Probabilistic accuracy it will be given by the model. Let's say I have built a model. Let's say a new patient is coming and I have the record for the patient. Okay, these are the symptoms, and this data goes to the machine learning model. So finally, it will give me the probability. So it may give me the probability. Let's say the probability of cancer is 0.7, or probability of non-cancerous is 0.3. So it will always give me the probability of happening of something. Probability cancer होने की probability है आपकी 0.7 and non-cancer होने की probability है आपकी 7.3. So because cancer is having the higher probability, so what will I predict? I will predict that this person is having the cancer on the basis of symptoms of the or the different test record or whatever. So all machine learning models are probabilistic method. Okay, that is why probability is the most important concept to understand the output or understand the machine learning models. Okay, good. Let's go to the next slide. So here in the machine learning, I won't go into the details what is the probability. Okay, so in the machine learning, basically conditional probability are being used. Okay, so probability, I hope all of you are aware of the basic probability. Probability is always between 0 to 1. Okay, high 1 means that this is certainly this thing is going to happen, and 0 means this thing is not going to happen at all. Okay, so this is the highest probability, this is the lowest probability. Okay, let's say for an example, I toss a coin, and what is the probability of coming head? So all of you are aware, because it's only two things can come, head or tail. So probability of coming head is because favorable case is 1 and total cases are 2, the probability of head is 1/2, probability tail is also 1/2 because one case. Okay, in the same case, let's say I have a dice, okay, with 1 to 6. So what is the probability of coming 1? Because let's say what is coming of this one. So because only favorable cases 1 and total how many cases are there? 6. So probability of coming 1 is 1/6. Okay, this is very simple. Let's say what is the probability of coming an even number on the top? So how many total even numbers are there? 3, 2, 4, and 6. So favorable cases are 3, total number are 6. So probability is 1/2. So this is a simple thing. I hope that you are understood the probability concept. Okay, so I'm not go deeper into that. So here we are use the conditional probability. Okay, so before going into the conditional probability, we try to understand the concepts of dependent events and independent events. First, your independent events and dependent events. Okay, so two events are dependent or independent. So it comes out, let's say, if two events are independent, that means that happening of one event does not affect the occurring of the second event. Let's say if I am, for examples, I have two coins, okay, and I am tossing two coins all together at the same time. But what is coming in the first coin, it does not affect the occurring on the second coin. So both the events are the basically independent events because they are not affecting each other. And what are the dependent events? When the one event is affecting the next event. Let's say for an example, uh, a person mostly generally always go for the playing cricket outside. But it also depends on the probability of the weather. If weather is, let's say it is raining, so he cannot go for the playing outside. So second event, playing event is dependent on the your weather forecasting. If it weather is not good, then he cannot go for the playing. So both the events are dependent events because first event, the weather event is affecting the your second event. In the same in the same way, there are a lot of you can take thousands of examples where this is dependent events. Let's say I want to watch Big Boss. ठीक है? Let's say millions of people watch the Big Boss. But if you are in India and let's say you are in some rural village, so you are watching the Big Boss is entirely dependent if electricity is there or it is not there. Okay, so these both the events are the dependent events. If electricity is there, you can watch the Big Boss. If electricity is not there, you cannot watch the Big Boss. So both the events are your dependent events. Okay, so in that case, the probability is your conditional probability because happening event B is dependent on event A. So what is the conditional probability? Okay, the conditional probability of event B is the probability that event will occur given the knowledge that event A has already occurred. This is reckoned by P B by B. That means what is the probability of happening of B when A is already happened? Let's say because it is a rainy day. So what is the probability that Mr. A will go out for playing cricket? Okay. Let's say if it is a rainy day, so what will the probability if A is a rainy? So what is the probability that he will go for the cricket? So it is probability is 0. Let's say it is very sunny day and it is very hot. So what is the probability? It will go for the playing cricket. So this is a conditional probability. So when A event is already happened, so I want to find out the probability of happening of B event. Okay, so that is your conditional probability. So this is the formula of conditional probability. Finding the probability of A happening of A when B is already happened. Okay, this is P A and B. This is also आप इसको ऐसे भी लिख सकते हो P A can B divided by P B. This is the formula of the. Okay, let's as of now let's don't go with the formula. Okay, we'll comes to it with a later time. Okay, let's just take an example. I have a deck of cards. I hope all of you have seen that cards in your lifetimes once or twice. Okay, so there are different colors of card, different kind of and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, J, K, Q, K, whatever it is. Okay, so there are 4 shades of card and the 4 colors. Okay, so let's say I have a card deck of there are 52 cards. Okay, there are 4 kings in the card. In that total 52. So what is the probability of I'm just pick out one card randomly. So what is the probability that it is a king? क्या probability होगी इसकी? Just give me your answer in the chat box. I just randomly pick one of the card. What is the probability that it is a king? Give me the answer in the chat box.
1 by 13.
1 by 13 because 4 by 52. Okay. Now let's see. अभी मैंने एक कार्ड I just picked one card and it comes out to be king. Okay, now I again pull out the second card. Okay, now what is the probability that the second card would be king? Because this event is already happened. Don't go for the formula, just go for the logic. the first card was king. Now what is the probability that second card would be a king?
3/51.
Just 3/51. Okay, first event is already happened. They are the independent event because second event is dependent on the first event. So I have to take consideration of the first output. The first output already says the king has already been drawn. So there are only 3 kings there and total cards are 51. So conditional probability of the second event is 3/51. Okay, so this is conditional probability. This is nothing, very simple thing. Okay, now just take and just there is 1 or 2 examples are there. So you can go for the examples. Okay, so first example we have done, and you are doing pretty good. So let's go for second examples. Okay, then we will do with the using the formula. Okay, okay. So we will do only 2 examples. Rest of examples you can go through the slides. Okay, after the class. Suppose an individual applying to a college determines that he has an 80% chance of being accepted. ठीक है, आप किसी के इंडिविजुअल ने अप्लाई किया कॉलेज में, ठीक है, उसकी 80% दे आर 80% चांसेस एप्लीकेशन वुड बी एक्सेप्टेड फॉर द डॉर्मेटरी. Okay. So first thing is that there is 80% of the chance that its application will be accepted. This is first thing. Okay, and after acceptance of the application, there are 60% chance that he will get the dormitory or the hostel. Okay, okay, 80% chance is acceptance of the application in the college, and second is 60% of the chance that after accepting the application, there are 60% chance that he will get the hostel. Okay. So what is the chance of the student being accepted and receiving hostel housing? What is the probability? Yani basically, let's say this event is A. Okay, and let's say this event is and receiving dormitory, let's say acceptance. Okay, is probability of PA, and getting the hostel or dormitory is probability of, let's say, PD. Okay, so what it has given to me? It has given to me 80% of the chance of accepting the application. It has given me PA. So P is nothing but 0.8. Okay, what it is given to me? He has given to me that application is already accepted, and after that, it is a probability of 60% that it will get the hostel. So that means what is actually given to me? It is given me actually P, D, A is already happened. That is actually 0.6. And X application is already accepted. So what is the probability that he will get the dormitory? So P, D is already given to me. That is 0.6. So what is one? It wants the probability कि आपका your application will be accepted and receiving the dormitory. So what actually it looking for? It looking for D, A. So what is the formula for that? P D A divided by PA. So ये मुझे दिया हुआ है, ये मुझे दिया हुआ है. So I will able to find out this thing. So this is a very simple thing. So this is your conditional probability. So you guys can go through all the 2 questions. Okay, after the slides, after the class, and it is very easy thing. That is no rocket science. Okay. So solution is already there. Okay, so we have understood the conditional probability. So in the data science, we have a very special algorithm that is called Bayes algorithm, and this is pure. This is very fast, very fast, and that's why it is very famous. This is pure probabilistic, pure mathematical. This is the beauty of mathematics. And it is completely based on the probability. So complete Naive-Bayes theorem, we call it Naive-Bayes theorem in machine learning, and it is completely based on the Bayes theorem. So what is actually Bayes theorem? Okay, let's go. P, what is P? A by B from the conditional probability. It is P A cap B divided by PB. Okay, and what is, let's say, PA? It is again P divided by PA. These two things are same. Okay, so what I can do? I can do P A cap B equal to, इसको मैं इस फॉर्म में लिख सकता हूँ, that is P. So this is your base theorem. This is your base theorem. Then I am trying to find the conditional probability, okay, of happening of A when B is already happened. Okay, this is the reverse probability. So actually I am trying to find out the reverse probability of something. Bayes theorem is about to find out the reverse probability of the something. Let's say for an example, conditional probability is the probability of when A is already happened, okay, and I want to find out the probability of happening the future event. Okay, Bayes theorem is just reverse of that. There are two conditional events, A and B is dependent on A. Okay, now B is already happened. Okay, A is already happened, B is already happened. So now I want to check out if B is already happened. So what is the probability that A was earlier happened or not? Because B is dependent on A, but it may not be the case if B is happening, so it is not always certain that A should happen. It is dependent on each other, but B can also happen on other cases as well. So if B is already happened, so what is the probability that A would have happened? So this is finding out the conditional probability in the back in the time. Okay, so this is reverse conditional probability, that is the Naive theorem. So you understood the concept difference. Conditional probability, a past event has been occurred, and I am trying to find out the conditional probability of the future event, that is your conditional probability. Okay, now the future event has already been occurred. Now I am just trying to find out if the A event was occurred or not occurred, what is the probability? So that is the reverse probability I'm trying to find out in the Naive-Bayes theorem. So you might be confused. Yeah, this is a confusing thing. So don't worry, we will go by an example and you will understand the thing. Okay. So don't worry. Okay. So go with an example. This is Bayes theorem. Okay. Don't worry about that. अभी Bayes theorem का application के लिए भी आप मत सोचो, ठीक है ना? Because when we do the Naive-Bayes theorem, then you will understand it completely. So just go for the Bayes example, Bayes theorem example. Okay, what does it say? Let's say in an airport, it screens the bags for the forbidden items. Let's say it should not be having any lighter or your matchbox or any unauthorized items. Okay. So you have a scene on the airport, so you have to push your bag through a scanner. If it is having any forbidden items, it just ring an alarm. So this is just same thing. Okay, so we have the screening of the forbidden items. Okay, and alarm is supposed to be triggered when a forbidden item is selected. This is a real-time example. Okay, now try to understand all the three conditions. Suppose that if 5% of the bags contains the forbidden items, that more or less अगर 100 people are coming to the airports, so majority almost 5% of the times the people are having the forbidden items in their luggage. So this is the first thing. Okay. Second thing is that if a bag contains the forbidden items, there is a 98% chance that it will trigger the alarm. Okay, this is something like that. कुछ लोग बहुत इंटेलिजेंट होते हैं, वो चीजों को छुपा के ले आते हैं. कुछ they are doing all the manipulative things, they are doing all their, they apply their brains. उसके बाद वो smuggling कर लेते हैं. Okay, so this is because your system is not 100% pro. They somehow they find out the workaround of that, and they will be able to bypass it. So basically, if your bag is having the forbidden item, then still there is 2% chances that it will not trigger the alarm. And in the case of 98%, it will trigger the alarm. Okay, because your system is not 100% accurate. Okay. Even if your bag does not contain a forbidden item, अगर आपके बैग में कुछ भी forbidden item नहीं है, but still there are 8% chances that it will trigger the alarm. आपने बहुत बार देखा होगा, आपने कुछ एयरपोर्ट में कुछ सामान डाला, वो अलार्म ट्रिगर कर देता है, then they will check manually. Let's say you have some gel or something, they will trigger, they will check it manually, they will find it, okay, that's only a gel, so you can take it along with you. Okay, because machine is not perfect, it just get confused sometimes. Okay, so you understand all the 3 points. First, of all the baggage going through the scanners, only the 5% of the bag channels have the forbidden items. Okay, if the bag is having the forbidden items, so 98% chance that it will trigger the alarm. If the bag does not contain a forbidden item, still there is a 8% chance that it will trigger the alarm. Very simple. Okay. Now what? Now I have to go for the, I have to apply the Bayes theorem, the reverse probability. What is? Let's say I just push a randomly chosen bag through the scanner and the alarm is raised. Okay, alarm is raised. So future की event आपकी हो चुकी है, it is already done. So what is the probability that it contains the forbidden items? Now I am going back to the time, okay, and I am just find out the reverse conditional probability. Because if alarm has already raised, so what is the probability that it is having the forbidden item? क्योंकि आपका अलार्म दोनों चीज, दोनों कंडीशंस में वो रेज हो जाता है, वो forbidden है और forbidden नहीं भी है. So what is the probability that if it triggers the alarm, it is having the forbidden item? Understood? That is just a Bayes theorem example. So this is very simple for understanding. We just always try to make a chart for this activity chart. These things are very simple. So let's say we start from here, from this point. This is your bag. This is your scanner. So suppose that 5% of bags contain the forbidden items. Okay. So forbidden items and the not forbidden items. So probability is 0.05. Okay. Forbidden items होने की and 9.95 is not forbidden. This is very simple. I have become two branches, forbidden and non forbidden. This is probability of 0.05, probability of 0.95. Okay. Now if it is forbidden items, so if it is forbidden items, 98% chance that it triggers the alarm. That means 0.98 is the probability that alarm will trigger. यानी alarm trigger होने की probability क्या होगी? 0.98 into 0.05. You can understand it because this event is happening after this. So this is 0.89 probability. Okay, if I am coming through this route, okay, then so raising the alarm, the probability is 0.05. And the 0.02 is the probability that then no alarm will be raised here. It is 0.001 probability. Let's see the third. If it does not contain the forbidden item not containing, instead it is having the 4.08% probability that it will raise the alarm, and 0.92% it would not raise an alarm. So this is a simple activity diagram. Okay, how the things will flow. So now let's go for the thing. Okay, what I need to find out. Let's say I have a probability of forbidden. Okay, I have probability of non-forbidden. Okay, I have probability of alarm. Okay, I have probability of not alarm. Okay, yeah, but this is the only thing. So what I need to find out? I need to find out the probability that it contains a forbidden item. So I want to probability of F, or what is already happened, it triggered the alarm. Yani what is already happened? Triggered the alarm, PA. A is already happened, and I want to find the probability if it is a forbidden item. Right? So what it should be? By the Bayes theorem, it should be P. Okay. This is the formula. So now let's go for the things one by one. So what is PA? Happening of alarm बजने की probability क्या? What is the probability of PA? Only just go only for the PA. Probability of alarm. This. Okay, let's leave for that. For example, go for the simpler thing. What is the probability of PF? What is the probability of forbidden item? What is the probability of forbidden item? 0.05. So this is 0.05. Very simple. What is the probability of A when F is already happened? That means It is forbidden item and alarm has been raised. What is the probability? Forbidden item this time or alarm has been raised, this thing. So what is the probability? 0.05 into 0.98, that is 0.049. So I know it, that is 0.049 or what? I want to probability of A when F is already happened. So F is already happened. What is probability? 0.98. Okay, when I know that A is already happened, sorry, this is F. This is a F meant this is a forbidden item and alarm buzzing probability मेरी क्या है? 0.98. So it should be 0.98. Okay. And what is my PA? कि what is the probability of alarm? Alarm मेरा कहाँ कहाँ पर बज रहा है? Here I am raising the alarm and here I am raising the alarm. So मेरी अलार्म बजने की प्रोबेबिलिटी यहाँ पर क्या है? 0.05 plus 0.9 this is 0.049 और यहाँ पर मेरी प्रोबेबिलिटी क्या है? 0.076. So I'm just adding both the things here. So this is my 0.049 plus 0.076. So this is 0.98. This is this thing. This is 0.05. So I will get the final value of PFA. Okay. So this is a very simple example. There is no rocket science in that. In the slide, there is another example. Okay, that you can go through by yourself. Okay. Okay. With the chart, the things are very simple. So you need not to worry. So here the solution is already given. Okay. Okay, guys. So this is already given to you. This again second example is also there in hospital treating patients. So you can go through by this and you will get a simple. So this is not very thing. You will go example by example. So you'll understand the concept. So this is called your Bayes theorem. Okay. So this is all about probability that is going to be used in the data sciences. Okay, so we need not to go any deeper with the probability because conditional probability and the Bayes theorem is measured to be used. So we'll go on the conditional probability and the Bayes theorem. So you have understood conditional probability, you have understood Bayes theorem, so you are good to go. Okay, you can go through this both the examples, you can find out all these terms. Okay, and then you are good to go. Okay, perfect. So here you can see the also that you can understand this is PA by F. We have seen this is 0.98. This thing 0.05. This comes 0.049. Okay, and this is alarm. Key point. This alarm is 0.049. 0.049 plus 0.076. That is 0.125. Okay, so divided by 0.39. It's the same thing. So no rocket science, very simple calculations. So now we have covered today linear algebra and probability. Okay, so I hope that is enough mathematics for today because that is very abstract mathematics, so that becomes difficult sometimes. So it is sometimes very boring. So we will not stretch the class today. It is done for the we are done for the today. Okay, you just go through all the slides and try to understand all the things one by one. It will take some time for you. Okay, so tomorrow we will do at the same time we will do statistics. Okay, tomorrow at 6 p.m. we will do statistics first. It will take around 90 minutes for you guys. Okay, then in the next 30 minutes we will doing the calculus part. Okay, so then we will cover all your mathematics part. Okay, by today and tomorrow class, and by the next weekend we will start with your Python. Okay, so by this week and the next week all your foundation classes will be over. Then we will start with the data science and machine learning. So you will be full-fledged ready for the data science and machine learning program. Okay, so go through the slides. I will share the slides with all of you. Okay, so then you can go ahead, try to understand it. I will meet you 6 p.m. tomorrow. So same link will work with all of you. Okay, I will take specific questions. Okay. So good. Go. Take rest.
Okay, thank you
Stay
again.
safe. Stay safe with the coronavirus. Okay.
You too.
Recording session I will share in the group, so you will all of you will be having the session recording. That is not a problem. Okay, but you all of you make sure that you go through all the slides, because if you miss anything, then you will not be understand in the following classes. So make sure you understand each and every concept, each and every slide. You go word by word. Okay, so that you won't face any problem in the coming classes. So tomorrow we will cover statistics and the calculus. So goodbye, Shabba Khair, Alvida.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.